is Thursday, June 18th, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, in breaking news, overnight, multiple fatalities reported following a shooting at a historic African-American church in Charleston, South Carolina. Muslims around the world begin marking the holy month of Ramadan, but in the Middle East, the mood is far from festive. And later on the show, migrants and Israeli actors share the stage in prison, performing a new play about the asylum seekers' plight in the country. Good morning, I'm Yael Levy, and we begin with breaking news from Charleston, South Carolina. This happened a short while ago, approximately 4 hours ago, where multiple fatalities have been reported following a shooting in a historic African-American church. The shooter, who is still at large, is suspected to be a white man in his 20s. We are looking at live pictures right now from Charleston. We're looking at pictures actually from the scene of Charleston in South Carolina, where that shooting occurred. As mentioned, this is an African-American church, a historic church from the little that we know so far. Press conferences were already being held. Multiple fatalities are being reported. And joining me in studio is Arad Nir, Senior Foreign Affairs Editor for Israeli Channel 2. We're looking at an incident as such. This just happened. But with the racial divides in the United States, what are the fears of something like that?
Well, there's no doubt that this has lots of explosive potential regarding things that are happening in the United States now. The tension between the racial tension. As far as we know, this was a white man that opened fire within a place of worship. I don't know how many people, we don't know how many people were in there at the moment, but we know that there are 9 fatalities confirmed at the moment. 9 fatalities confirmed, at least 1 survivor. According to this survivor, it was a white man. There's a manhunt at the moment. It would take a lot of responsibility for all community leaders to calm the situation, not only in North Carolina, not only in Charleston, but along the United States of America.
Across the African-American community, across the United States. I'm looking at this, I'm thinking Ferguson and whatnot when it comes to police brutality, but this would take a different, I think this would take a different type of responsibility, as you rightfully mentioned. We will be updating you throughout the morning as to information coming out of Charleston, South Carolina. As we mentioned, overnight breaking news, shooting in an African-American historic church in that place of worship in the United States, as we move along now. And speaking of religion and what the world deals with when it comes to religion, today marks the beginning of the month of Ramadan, observed by nearly 1.6 billion Muslims across the world. The religious practice, which consists of fasting, praying, and conducting other acts of devotion, commemorates the first revelation of the Quran to Muhammad nearly 1,400 years ago. While Ramadan is supposed to be a time of spiritual reflection and the practicing of good deeds, there is no indication that religious piety will have a calming effect on regional conflicts in our part of the world, with the civil war in Syria raging and no signs of peace descending on places like Yemen or Iraq. Joining me in studio this morning, I-24 News Middle East analyst Ali Waked. Good morning to you. Arad Nir, Senior Foreign Affairs Editor of Channel 2. Good morning to you.
Good to be
Before we begin, let's take a look at Ramadan, its meaning, and where it stands at this specific time in the Middle East.
At the first sight of the crescent moon last night, close to 1.6 billion Muslims worldwide began celebrating Ramadan, the holiest month of the year. According to tradition, this is the month in which the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad. During Ramadan, observant Muslims do not eat or drink in the daylight hours, but carry about their daily routines. And the fast is considered much more a time of reflection and spirituality than a mere physical ritual. But as the Middle East is burning, locals have little to celebrate. In Syria, which is caving under the civil war and the fight against IS, with hundreds of thousands dead and millions homeless, even this special month does not seem to foster any calm or positive change.
We are fasting even without Ramadan. We have only 1 meal per day. We see apricots that cost 300 or 400 Syrian liras. Same thing goes for cherries, oranges, and watermelons. We take pictures of the fruit and watch them on our mobiles.
Ahead of the peace talks in Geneva, intended to bring some rest to war-torn Yemen, the UN Secretary-General implored on both sides to take the holy month of Ramadan into consideration.
Ramadan traditionally is a period where people pray for peace, reflection, and harmony, reconciliation. So people of Yemen should be able to enjoy this kind of a peace.
In Iraq, many are getting ready to commemorate their second Ramadan as refugees, struggling with unbearable conditions and existential uncertainty.
When we were at the camp, I fasted for 2 days, but it was too hot and I could not manage because thirst was unbearable. I felt dizzy and fainted, and I broke my fasting after the first 2 days. Now, if we can, we will fast this year, God willing. But let them provide for our needs, such as electricity, water, aid, and food.
And still, some try to find the silver lining and remember the origins of this holy month.
It is important to remind our children in Ramadan and its joy, because all what we are doing lately is listening to news, politics, clashes, crimes, and sectarianism. We should take them back to the Ramadan of peace, blessing, and safety.
The month of Ramadan will end on Friday, July 17th, with the Eid al-Fitr, the festival of breaking the fast. But whether much will change in the world so that this festival is truly joyous is not very likely.
Now, though Syria as a whole has little to celebrate this holiday season, with the civil war they're grinding on for more than 4 years, killing nearly 250,000 people and leaving millions homeless. Any hopes that Ramadan would bring a period of calm for the war-ravaged people of Yemen also appears to be completely disappearing. As of Wednesday, well, we saw a surge in violence, even as delegations were in Geneva attempting to hash out a ceasefire. And ISIS, of course, also topped the agenda in meetings Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi held yesterday with senior officials in Tehran during his second visit to Iran since taking office a year ago, frustrated by the setbacks in taking back large portions of the country conquered over recent months by the jihadists. Let's go straight to Iraq first, to journalist Mohammed Assalia, who is in Erbil. Good morning to you, Mohammed.
Good morning to you, too.
Now, Ramadan in Iraq this year, I mean, I'm opening the door for you to tell me how it will be marked and what are the hardships of the people to mark it, Ramadan in Iraq this year, and are we expecting ISIS to do anything specific in this holy month?
Excuse me, I actually couldn't hear you. Sorry, could you repeat? Your
Sure.
voice was breaking
Sure,
up.
Mohammed. There have been reports, obviously, there have been reports that in Iraq, let's take it to a different direction. In Iraq, the Prime Minister of Iraq, the President of Iraq, has been meeting with delegates from Iran discussing the future of Iraq on this beginning of the month of Ramadan. Firstly, is there any heightened security in and around Iraq where you're at, okay, when it comes to the holy month of Ramadan, because there are fears that something will happen? Or is there some type of understanding that at least this month is holy and the country will be quiet?
Well, definitely the fact that it is Ramadan will not really have an impact or an effect in terms of reducing the amount of security violations or the conflict. In the previous years, we have seen that insurgent groups, and this year for sure, ISIS, they will be exploiting Ramadan, and last year during Ramadan there was also fighting. So Ramadan will not really be an excuse or a reason for this type of groups to stop their activities. And where I am actually in the north in Kurdistan, there isn't any sort of heightened security, but as far as whether we will have more attacks and more fighting, Ramadan is not really going to stop that.
Yeah, and Mohammed, I hope that you can stay with us for a little while. I want to turn the discussion back into the table here. Ali, I'm going to start with you. Ramadan on this type specific. I basically just read that ISIS are running around Iraq and throwing all kinds of alcohol around. But we're looking at Ramadan on this holy month, something, as Mohammed said, is not going to stop anything in Iraq happening. Can it cause some sort of calm down when it comes to places like Yemen or Syria, or will that have no effect there as well?
No, I think we should not guess what will happen in this Ramadan because, unfortunately, since 2011 we had
several
full Ramadans, and we saw that the level of flames and of violence did not go down in this month. On the contrary, this month we saw an escalation in almost all the arenas where there is violence, whether it was Syria, Iraq, or elsewhere. We see, you mentioned in your introduction, the negotiations in Geneva, which is the latest case of war in Yemen, where the parties did not show any flexibility to at least allow the Yemenite people join the very beginning of Ramadan, and until the last hours there were clashes in Yemen, there were bombardings in Yemen, which means that there is no sign that the parties that are fighting will help the people to join this, to enjoy this month, or to have some peaceful moments because of this very holy month. And yeah, one important point. The sectarian division, it is also reflected in the fact that in some Shiite regions, they are marking the Ramadan. Some of them will start marking it tomorrow, and the Sunnis started it today, which means that even the Eid al-Fitr, the holidays after Ramadan, will be marked in a different time from both Shiites and Sunnis.
Let's talk about the sectarian divisions and Ramadan being a jumping point to that. Arad, you're with me in studio. Sectarian divisions is what we're seeing throughout the Middle East. I have a feeling, as I'm looking at this month specifically, not just as Ramadan, that the clock is ticking towards somehow picking the West, picking the Muslim player that they will play along with for the next several years. And it's my theory, and we can argue about that. And there seems to be a battle right now in all these little arenas, be it Yemen, not little, be it Syria, be it Iraq, and who the next big Muslim player will be.
The West, Yael, if you ask me, will choose its more convenient ally in the region, regardless of its religion. So, it may be one Islamic sect or another. Right. And with your permission, if I may be a bit philosophical on this first day of Ramadan without any harm to anybody, I tend to believe that regardless of who gave the Holy Scriptures to whom, that religion is being used by human beings in order to control other human beings. So regardless if it is the peaceful month of Ramadan or other meanings of the month of Ramadan, those who are trying to lead people, to control people, will use it according to their own personal purposes. So if, for example, we are using or we are dealing with ISIS, the leaders of ISIS will use this essence of Ramadan, the spirit of Ramadan, to promote their own agenda, to promote their own aims, to get to their own targets, regardless of the actual religious meaning of this month.
And joining us also on the phone is we're joined also by senior researcher for Islamic Society from not from the United Kingdom. We're joined by Mr. Heller with us on the phone from the INSS, Mark Heller, Principal Research Associate at the INSS, who deals a lot with Islam. On this specific month, though, but Mr. Heller, my fear is usually that it turns also, we're looking at the world, we're looking at Islam being such a main issue when it comes to the world agenda, but it also leads many, many people in the Western world, and I think that's the clash of civilization, to Islamophobia. And I think in this specific month of Ramadan, it's a good point to touch on the specifics of what the world knows of Islam and how Islam is portrayed towards the West, where we're at this point in time, so to speak.
Well, I think that most people in the West get their understanding of Islam from what they see Muslims do. And there is, in fact, no authoritative version of Islam. No one who is empowered to speak on behalf of all Muslims in the world and say this is Islam and this is not, this is proper Muslim way and this is not a proper Muslim way. And therefore, we shouldn't be looking at this in terms of doctrine. We should be looking at this in terms of behavior. And when people in the West look at behavior of people who identify themselves as Muslims are naturally drawn to the most sensationalistic or dramatic manifestations of that behavior, which unfortunately, particularly in recent years, has been violence. And therefore there is a tendency, I think it's undeniable, to identify Islam, or Muslims, I should say, with violence. And that's part of what shapes Western perceptions.
It is part of what shapes Western perceptions, and Mark, do stay with us. But Ali, I'm asking you, because, you know, at the end of the day, the Muslim world, in many, many ways, is fighting that perception. It's really fighting how they're portrayed throughout the West. And there is a huge battle between, you know, is Islam a very violent religion, or is it not? And what is the West not understanding about Islam? I'm asking, as you know, as we're sitting in a Western country, what is it that they do not understand when it comes to dealing with all these Islamic factions and sectarian groups on the ground in the Middle East?
Yeah, Yusuf al-Qaradawi is one of the principal theologists and theologians of the Muslim Brotherhood in the world. He wrote several books about the fact that a Muslim in the West should be a very good ambassador of Islam and should show the positive aspect of and the tolerant aspect of Islam. And he said that he should integrate in the Western societies and try with his positive approach to show what is Islam to the West. On the other hand, this same Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who is located in Qatar, is promoting the tension between Sunnis and between Shiites. So right now, we cannot say what is the real approach. It is very hard to protect or to defend Islam, to explain to the West that ISIS is not representing Islam. Sure. When you see what's happening in Belgium or what's happening in France, I think the level of tolerance of the Westerns to understand that there is another image of Islam, it is very tough. When you see that almost all the Arab countries are involved in this holy war between Shiite and Sunni, whether by orchestrating or financing or supporting or hosting the parties that are fighting, we cannot expect the West to understand that there is another Islam. Yet when you go on the streets like in Israel, and I will say that maybe Israel is one of the points that Muslims right now can enjoy some freedom of worship and rights. You can see that people are celebrating. People are focusing on the peaceful and humanitarian aspects in every neighborhood now in Israel, and I guess in other places in the world. There are collections of donations. The problem is that every year there are more places to send donation. It started with Iraq, then it go to Syria. Now it is Yemen. Yeah. Lebanon is on the map, and this month of charity and of solidarity is becoming a month where everybody is following the news to see whether he is on the right or whether the others in our region are the Shiites, and the interdivision and the sectarian division is dominating every discourse about any aspect of Ramadan.
And Rodney, I'm glad you're here, because I think it's one thing that the West doesn't understand, that this sectarian discourse is something that existed, but it's playing into the hands of bigger battles. And I go back to what I asked you before. When it comes to the sectarian battles in the Middle East, does the West realize what they have gotten themselves into?
No, they don't. They definitely don't, because they don't understand the Middle East. The West does not understand the Middle East. I think the West does not understand the derivatives of Islam. If you know, we've seen on the screen, Islamophobia is on the rise in the West. Yeah. So talking about Islamophobia is as generalizing a tendency as anything else, as much as anti-Semitism. You know, to derive your attitude towards Islam from the pictures of the beheadings that you see ISIS on a weekly or monthly basis on YouTube, and even on some of your TV screens, this is wrong. It is as wrong as deriving anti-Semitism from the devastation you see that the IDF is doing in Gaza. This is the very same tendency. It's the tendency of generalizing, that's it. And I think that Islam is much more complex, it's much more vast than we in the West know. We've seen in the footage here, we saw Islam in Indonesia, we see Islam in the Far East. There are many forms in Islam. In Turkey, there are many forms and derivations of Islam. So to talk about Islamophobia and to perpetuate Islamophobia, it is as wrong as talking about and developing anti-Semitic senses.
No, I completely accept that, and I think it's one of the problems maybe in the West is the generalization of the religion across the board.
Because of ignorance.
Because of ignorance. But on that happy note, we're going to move along as we stay on a semi-similar topic as we move along. But as sectarian violence continues throughout the Middle East, still 2 weeks away from us is June 30th, and that's a target date for reaching a nuclear deal between Iran and world powers. Representatives of the sides met yesterday for a round of technical talks, but with progress reportedly slowing, diplomats say the sides may have to extend their negotiations. Let's take a look at the following report about developments in the Iranian talks with the West and break it down from there.
For months now, all eyes have been drawn to the draining game of who will blink first between Western powers and Iran. And now, less than 2 weeks to the final self-imposed deadline, it seems that the U.S. could be the first to cave in. Another formal round of nuclear talks was launched Wednesday, aimed at resolving the remaining points of contention. Hours before, on Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry expressed a softer approach towards the key issue of lifting sanctions, hinting that Washington might be willing to settle.
We're not fixated on Iran specifically accounting for what they did at one point in time or another. We know what they did. We have no doubt. We have absolute knowledge with respect to the certain military activities they were engaged in. What we're concerned about is going forward.
Iran and 6 world powers are still split on central elements of the nuclear deal, and if no outstanding breakthrough will be made, an extension is likely to happen. Over the last couple of weeks, Russian diplomats claimed time and again that there is a serious lack of headway on all issues, especially in terms of international monitoring of Tehran's nuclear facilities and the method and pace of lifting sanctions. Yet at the moment, both parties remain publicly committed to the June 30 deadline, while negotiators do recognize a possible extension of up to July 8th. In the meantime, Swiss authorities have made progress in their investigation into allegations that hackers had targeted venues hosting nuclear talks.
We have an open investigation for political espionage in Switzerland. I can't tell you more than that. What is also sure that we have done a house search and we got massive data, which we also have to do the processing work and the analytical work.
Next week, the 7 foreign ministers will join the negotiator for what is set to be the final round of talks, all very eager to reach a historic deal.
With me in studio also is, of course, Rodney, Channel 2 Senior Foreign Affairs Editor, and Tal Shalev, I-24 News diplomatic correspondent. When it comes to the talk, specifically that report, though, there are updates since then.
Well, it's just the problem is not that Kerry has, that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry did not signal any kind of concessions on the sanctions at this moment, but he did signal that that the U.S. might be folding on one of the most difficult issues in the talks, and that is the what we call the possible military dimensions. The international community has been having a long-standing demand from Iran to come clean on their past covert activities on the nuclear program. And what Kerry suggested in his remarks at the State Department on Tuesday evening in this teleconference briefing, he suggested that this would not be a condition for the deal. Since then, this has created an uproar. He had to clarify his comments. He had to speak to some senators to explain his comments. And yesterday at the State Department briefing, the spokesman had to say again that the possible military dimensions will be part of the deal and that the U.S. are not making any concessions on this. But in any case, there is a growing concern that as the deadline approaches, there's a growing concern from the hardliners in the U.S. in the P5+1, and of course here in Israel, that the U.S. might be yielding into the Iranian demands because of the political will to make a deal.
To make a deal. But I'm glad that you're with us. From the little that we know, though, because not that much information is coming out of there, I personally do not believe that that deal will be signed on June 30th, but somewhere around July, because this is forging ahead irrespective of anything else. Does that mean, and the million-dollar question that we constantly are asking, in the play of power, is that the way that the United States has picked Iran as the next big, apropos, sectarian player in the region?
It seems so.
Yeah.
It's hard not to think this way, but regardless, I think that Iran is a regional superpower, and better rein it in to be your friend or at least a distant ally rather than keep it as your own enemy. I think this should be the approach, and I think this is the Obama's administration approach. This is how they are dealing with it. Regarding the deal, you know, I've been talking to many diplomats who are experienced in negotiating with Iranians, and wherever they come from, the unanimous agreement or statement is that with the Iranians, there's no deal until there is a deal. Until the very last moment, until you shake the hand, everything can change. So I may even think that July is a bit of an optimistic approach. This may be an optimistic approach, and you know...
the Iranian lawmaker yesterday said in Parliament that he gives 10% to the chance that there will be a deal by July. He said they will need another 4 months. Just saying.
Can Obama afford another 4 months? That's the other question.
And well, you know, from the Israeli perspective, from the Israeli practice, actually, regarding negotiations, maybe the best thing is to carry on negotiating while they are being reined in. Endless negotiations and keep the situation as it is.
Isn't that something that we know well? Very good. Now, status quo, liked by some in the Middle East. Thank you both for being with me here this morning. As we mentioned, breaking news overnight confirmed 9 dead in a shooting in a historic Charleston African-American church. That is according to initial reports streaming in. The police chief in South Carolina has already called this a hate crime. Eyes are on the United States this morning, especially in that area of the south of the Bible Belt, where an African-American church was under attack by what we know, as of now, supposedly is a white assailant. We will be back shortly. Stay with us. First, the news. I-24 News Morning Edition, the place to be. Guess why? Because Ami Kaufman is here, and the bow tie is...
It's purple today.
It's purple. It is purple.
It's one of my favorite colors. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Ami Kaufman here to discuss the news you missed while scanning the headlines. There is a lot of news this morning, mainly, though, from North America.
Yeah, we're going to start with South Carolina and Charleston. Just a quick update. 9 people were killed in that shooting at a church in Charleston. Officials, the police chief, has called it a hate crime. We know that it's a white male, approximately around 21 years old, clean-shaven, wearing a gray sweatshirt, blue jeans, and Timberland boots. They're still searching for him, even though they arrested one white male just outside the church, but apparently that is not the guy that did it. Apparently one person who might have been in the church at the time of the shooting was the pastor of the church. Yeah. His name is Clementis Pinckney, and he is also a state senator of South Carolina, but we have no confirmed reports that he is hurt or injured or dead.
And no, the state senator and the pastor, supposedly.
Yeah, he does both. He does both, yeah. It's one of the oldest black congregations in America. It goes back to around 1816.
And we're looking at pictures from the scene here right now in South Carolina. The thing that terrifies me the most, when you look at stories as such, as we said, it's a place of worship, it's a church, it's an African-American church.
It's coming at a time when, you know, racial tensions are very high in the States to begin with. I mean, we just heard about the Rachel Dolezal story, of course, but there's also the police brutality. It seems like there's not a day that passes where we don't see a video on social media of police brutality against black in Blacks in America, Eric Garner, Mike Brown, Freddie Gray.
Exactly. And the sad, tragic thing about it, as America supposedly turned the corner and has an African-American president,
right.
But the racial divide's rising, and something like this, to me, I mean, I'm hoping that I am wrong, but, you know, we saw policemen coming out earlier asking everybody to be calm, because, as you mentioned, we've seen racial divides, we've seen also then uprising, which you can't blame the people, I have to say, for that.
I can't remember such a violent hate crime against blacks in recent years. I mean, it's just reminiscent of stuff that happened long time ago in the 60s and 50s and earlier. I can't remember, I might be wrong, but I don't remember such a high number, 9 people killed by a white man. It's just
frightening.
Shocking.
Yes, let's move
and
along.
by the way, there's just a quick update. We apparently have some news about a church that was burned
in Israel.
In Israel.
Yes.
Totally unrelated, but somewhat related, because this is violence against Christians. So that's pretty much all we have right now.
No, we have supposedly a church up in the Galilee.
In the city, the village of Tabcha.
And looking like a hate crime, but again, we don't have
some graffiti price tag that was sprayed on the walls as well.
Okay.
Staying here in Israel, we're going to go to our usual press review. As we can see in this headline from Foreign Policy, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has put out a video that is mocking Western journalists and how they covered the Gaza war. Personally, I can't believe my tax shekels went to this. Let's see about in 2036. I can't show you the whole thing. Let's see.
No, please, let's have a look.
It's enough, actually.
We're here in the center of Gaza, and as you can see, the people here are trying to live quiet lives. There are no terrorists here, just ordinary people. Okay, I'm going into Gaza's underground city, a fascinating attempt by Hamas to build a subway system. This is actually the first Palestinian subway, which will bring Gaza's transportation system into the 21st.
No.
Yeah, this is well. What do you?
I know.
I'm speechless
because I'm speechless because, for the sake of full disclosure, and I have a tendency to say everything on the air, I've spent the bulk of my journalistic career working for foreign media.
Right.
For both Sky News and ABC News, and this was financed by the foreign ministry.
Correct me if I'm wrong. As a journalist, you would be offended from this.
Not only that, but I think the Israeli foreign ministry has just, with all due respect, alienated the entire foreign press.
Well, first of all, you're right, because the Israeli
based in the Middle East.
The Israeli Foreign Press Association has condemned the video, saying it is alarmed by what it's called a misleading attempt to ridicule journalists. And you know what? I have to agree. There are journalists who put their lives on the line during the war. Some of them died. Some of them were injured. And this is, really not making things better.
No, it's not making things. It's not only counterproductive, but I think it's straight to the point, really, that the foreign press corps, no matter what you want to think of them, whether you're Israeli or not, and you want to point the finger at them as having a bias. This has just been pointed. And those are people who risk their lives.
Yeah, there's a way to criticize. I mean,
and those are people who go in there with flak jackets and get shot at, just like civilians, and doing their job daily.
So a lot of people are angry. Wow. I think the ministry could use their time in better ways.
Probably. And just quickly, they have made friends with the foreign press.
Quickly, I just want to stay with the Gaza tunnels, because this is a picture that's worth 1,000 words. I really don't have much to say about it. Let's just see the picture from the Jerusalem Post of Michael Douglas is visiting the country, and what do you have? Michael Douglas went to visit a Hamas tunnel. That pretty much says it all. I know. Where else do you have a place like this where you have American celebrities?
The American comes out. I know.
That just come and see a Hamas terror tunnel.
Michael Douglas is in a Hamas tunnel, but man, I'm sorry.
He's the son of Spartacus.
He is the son of Spartacus.
That's a good point.
That is true. That is true. Wow.
That's a good point. Okay, moving on to back to the States. Actually, I'm going to take this. It's the States, but we're talking about the Pope, who released what they call an encyclical, 192-page document. Actually, it wasn't officially released yet. It was leaked to an Italian newspaper. He didn't want it out yet, and it was about global warming. He reiterated the established science that
you're in the right place.
That burning fossil fuels are warming the planet. That he said that the impact threatened the world's poor, and called for government policies to cut fossil fuel use. But what's interesting about this is this is
fabulous.
How it's going to play out in the American elections, because a lot of Republican contenders are Catholics, mainly Jeb Bush, Mark Rubio, and some others, Rick Santorum. Now, Jeb Bush didn't even wait for the official report. He heard this leak, and he already had something to say about it. He took a jab as a Catholic at the Pope. Let's hear what he had to say.
Let's have a listen.
Well, I want to read it, but first of all, Pope Francis is an extraordinary leader. He speaks with such clarity. He speaks so differently, and he's drawing people back into the faith, all of which as a converted Catholic now of 25 years, I think is really cool. I hope I'm not like going to get castigated for saying this by my priest back home, but I don't get economic policy from my bishops or my cardinals or from my pope, and I'd like to see what he says as it relates to climate change and how that connects to these broader, deeper issues before I pass judgment. But I think religion ought to be about making us better as people and less about things that end up getting into the political realm.
Yeah, so he doesn't want the Pope to be involved. And
Yes.
just quickly, one more line, as we know that Donald Trump joined the race yesterday, and you saw that I was very happy. You know who else was very happy?
Who else was very
Jon
happy?
Stewart was extremely happy. I just have to show you how, you know.
Okay, this is I have so many things to say about Jeb Bush. I will shut up. Here's Jon Stewart, very, very happy about Donald Trump. Let's have a look. Do we have it? Yeah, we don't have Jon Stewart.
We don't have
okay. How sad. That was such an intro.
He was very happy.
He was very happy. He was extremely happy. Okay.
Take my word for
it. That said, I mean, fabulous. I think the American elections are going to give us so much stuff to celebrate on.
My God.
And this is the time to move to Daniel Roth, who is with me in studio as well, because we have just put aside all this stuff about death and destruction, and we're going straight to Greece. But I'm going to read Greece from my page here. So there we have it. But Daniel, you're here with Greece because it's falling apart. It's a central bank that warning the country may be facing an exit, correct?
Yes. Greece owes over $300 billion in borrowed money to three major creditors. They owe money most directly. In the next couple of weeks, they owe money to the IMF, about $1.6 billion, and they're waiting for a $7 billion. There's a lot of billions of dollars involved.
And it's all coming to a headway right now.
Yes, and Greece may default.
May default. Let's have a look at the report.
All eyes are on Greece and the ongoing talks with its creditors to hammer out a deal on bailouts and repayments by the end of a Eurozone finance ministers meeting at the end of the week. So far, months of negotiations have not helped cobble together a sense of stability for the parties, and the leftist Syriza-led Greek government has called on parties to come to the table with a long-term solution in mind to avoid future uncertainty.
It is crucial we strike a viable deal. It is not crucial just for the government, it's crucial for the country. It is crucial to end this vicious cycle and not to be forced to go to a deal which, in 6 months' time, will bring us back to the same point.
Much of the conflict lies in the creditors' demands for debt restructuring and austerity reforms in Greece in return for the €7 billion next installment of Greece's bailout package at the end of the month. At the same time, Greece is supposed to pay back a €1.6 billion IMF loan. While a June deal could stop a Greek exit from the Eurozone, similar repayments are due in July. Fears of a Greek default have led to slides in Greek markets and elsewhere. Meanwhile, European lenders say they've compromised and that now it's Greece's turn.
I believe the concessions overall that have been made and the flexibility that has been shown is quite substantial, and it's not a one-way street.
But the Greek government is adamant that it will not adhere to further demands for austerity measures.
What we answer from our side, and it certainly isn't naive from the Greek government, is that austerity measures which reduce pensions or increase the VAT on basic goods, or measures that strengthen this vicious circle of austerity, we won't take part in that.
Indeed, the Greek leadership has been outspoken that it has done all it can within its anti-austerity mandate, which swept it to power early this year. Many are skeptical that an amiable deal can get done, and anticipation is building in what many see as the end of the line for these negotiations.
Joined from Athens by strategic communication consultant Stratos Sefiolias. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Good morning to you.
Fine. Good morning.
I did fine. Great. Is this getting to a headway? This is it, basically, the make or break time?
It seems so, and I have to say though, I still hold hope that we're going to come to an agreement, because I frankly find it very hard to find out who's winning from Brexit. It's definitely going to be destructive for Greece, and it's going to be risky for Europe. And this whole thing doesn't make sense. I mean, come to think about it, the difference between Greece and the European lenders is 0.02% of what is the combined European GDP. I mean, does this make sense? You would think that sensible people will be able to come to a sensible agreement, and that's what I hope.
And the question is, you know, listen to maybe what Daniel Roth has to say about that. Does Cyprus understand that, or is that the feeling of most people in Greece?
It's look. There's the short-term view and the long-term view. In the short-term, Greek exit will hurt everyone. It's instability, and the system relies on stability. It relies on things working properly. If the people, quote, the people are ready for a long-term rebuilding process that involves rebuilding currency, rebuilding banking system, rebuilding the way taxes work in the country, which, you know, famously the Greek tax system hasn't worked properly in decades.
Since mythological days, yes.
Yes, since ancient times.
Yes.
If people are ready for long-term, total system change in Greece, then maybe they can come out of it the other side without a quarter of the people out of work, without this constant back and forth, without creditors forcing austerity measures that are not only unpopular, but mathematically have been proven not to bring economies back to the table.
Not to bring them back to the table, but, you know, and then Stratos, that's a question to you. Are the people ready? Because it has been going on for, I mean, you know, the economic situation in Greece has been terrible for a very long time. What are the other... Go ahead.
Just to comment on what I heard just before, first of all, the Prime Minister has been committed to keep the country in the Eurozone before the election and after the election. Publicly, he has never spoken about exiting the Eurozone. And I think, to quote Keynes, if I remember correctly, long-term, everybody's dead. I mean, literally, the situation is going to be very bad. No serious economist has ever suggested that going from euro to, let's say, back to drachma, something that we don't even know how it's done. I mean, literally, we don't know what's the mechanism for that. Nobody has ever suggested that this is going to be a pleasant or a possible situation. And I think what we need to consider also here is not just the economic repercussions, which are, you know, tremendous. Right. It's about the political stability of the country. And Greece is located in a very sensitive part of the world at a time where things are very dangerous in the area, and you know best what's going on with Islamic radicalism in the Middle East, and all the issues that are happening north of us, in Ukraine and Russia. So you have a country which is stable, which is part of the NATO alliance, and all of a sudden it's thrown into a situation which is unpredictable. I find hard to believe, as I said before, for something that is such a small percentage of the total European GDP, that the Europeans and the Greeks cannot come into some kind of an agreement. It makes zero sense.
It makes zero sense. One can only hope. But one can only hope. Sadly, all the time we have, but I think, Daniel, that this is going to be playing out in the next several days,
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. I want to thank you all for being with me this morning. Obviously, when we get back, something different. Migrants and Israeli actors go on stage together in a new play about the asylum seekers in the country. Stay with us. First, though, as in every morning, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Welcome back. It is still Thursday, June 18th, 2015. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News. Last I checked, I'm still in Tel Aviv, I think. I'm still in Tel Aviv. Don't lose it. Do not. But breaking news overnight, and I'm glad you're still with me on this segment. In South Carolina, in Charleston, South Carolina, this happened approximately 5 hours ago. The little that we know is that a white man, and I'm going to say it with all the adjectives added, a white man supposedly in his 20s, entered a church, an African-American church, one of the oldest black churches.
One of the oldest congregations in America. It goes back to 1816. This building, this church building is from 1890.
Right.
So
we have approximately 9 confirmed dead.
We have 9 confirmed dead. 8 were shot dead in the church itself. 1 died later in the hospital. The gunman is still loose, still searching for him. Police chief is calling it a hate crime. There's no doubt about that. So this is one of the most violent crimes against blacks by a white
against
person.
the black community, and I think, you know, all eyes will be on the United States today, because the fear with something like this is that riots will break out. This is in South Carolina. It's the Bible Belt of the United States. It's going to be something to look out for, and a very sad story that is. But we have Shachar Pele.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, and welcome to the studio of Death and Destruction.
Yes, I join it with Death and Destruction. Not really Death and Destruction, but a story about, once again...
you have a remarkable story for us today, and I'm going to let you lead into it.
Yes, we have been talking and hearing about hate crimes, and I think here in Israel, haven't been really hate crimes against the minority of the migrants here and asylum seekers in Israel, but there's definitely a great dispute among Israelis and those who are against the migrants even being here. That we hope it won't lead eventually to anything violent against them. But until then, in what some might consider naive, a theatre called Legislative Theatre is trying to put the spotlight on the migrant story and trying to force the Israeli government into action, into a policy, into some kind of legislation which does not exist thus far regarding the asylum seekers in Israel.
Asylum seekers, and let's just remind people, the asylum seekers are usually holed up in big prisons that are called open prisons.
Exactly. So let's start with the report.
With the report.
Much has been said about the Holot detention facility in southern Israel, where since December 2013, the Israeli government has sent more than 1,500 Eritrean and Sudanese migrants. But for those living there, time stands still.
There's nothing to do in Holot. It's a prison. People are always hopeful. Maybe tomorrow or the next day we will leave Holot. Why? Because we haven't done anything wrong.
Bored and frustrated, they can leave the compound, but are bound to a 10 p.m. daily curfew. Mostly ignored, the inhabitants of Holot were suspicious at first by an unexpected theatrical initiative.
It started just as a project that we wanted to go and to do some theater to, I wouldn't say entertain, but to have some education and activity there.
Theatre director Chen Alon and documentary filmmaker Avi Mugrabi decided to join forces when they first heard about the facility. For over a year, they have been working with a group of asylum seekers in an attempt to bring their hardships to center stage.
When my wife gave birth, I didn't get any time off to be with her. When there were red alert sirens for rockets, my workplace didn't allow me to go and be with my daughter.
Extremely shy at first, Jonathan now brings his personal story to life in front of hundreds of people.
In the beginning, it was difficult for me. I would start laughing all the time, but slowly I got used to it. I saw how they worked on my difficulty and understood I had to do so as well.
In another scene, Jonathan becomes an Israeli military officer.
It is difficult for me to portray a soldier, to act against migrants, but this is the role I was given.
We decided later on to incorporate Israelis, activists and professional actors in the group because we think that this is an Israeli problem. It's not only a refugee problem.
It was very strong, being both of the parts, being the refugee but being also an Israeli.
Still, a cynical outsider would find it hard to believe that legislative theatre, as the play is called, could bring about political change.
We can't change all the policy, but we can make a small change. And I think that we are started already the process to create it.
Whether change is achievable or not, those deprived of their freedom refuse to stay put and will continue to sound the universal problem of migration, asylum, and human rights.
Shachar, before you continue, because I think you started off leading into this report where you were being very politically correct, saying one can be very slightly naive to think that legislative theater or that art can bring change. I am one of these people who do not believe that this is going to help. But the idea behind it is fabulous. What does Avi Mugrabi, somebody like Avi Mugrabi,
Yes.
what is he hoping
So before we start with Mugrabi and Alon, we have to explain or remind that unlike any other regular prison where the prisoners are sentenced, they know their sentence, they know when they will be released, and they have recreational, educational and cultural programs within the prison. Here in the detention center of Holot, despite the fact that the detainees are free to go, it's an open facility, they're free to go, they have to be there between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. every day, and so it very much bounds them to the compound. They cannot really move, and they are bored and frustrated there. And such an initiative by Mugrabi and Alon, who heard the story of September 2012, when there were 21 Eritreans stuck between the fences of the Egyptian and Israeli border, and there was a great dispute between the Israeli soldiers whether to give them water and food. For 8 days, they were stuck there under the boiling sun. Avi Mugrabi was exposed to this story, and him and Chen Alon decided to make the trip every week for the past year, 6 hours back and forth to meet with these asylum seekers and to work with them. And what they told us was they started out with sort of a course or an educational treat for these people, who eventually, the migrants themselves came up and said, we want to create a show, a theater, a play, and show this to the people. And eventually last Saturday was their first show, the premiere of their play. Hundreds of people came to the Holot area to see their stories, not only the asylum seekers stuck in Holot or other migrants across Israel, but Israelis, because as Alon said, this is a problem not only of the refugees, this is a problem of, this is everyone's problem. This is something that everyone must protest and demonstrate in order to create some kind of a solution, of policy. Alon himself is a theater director working in the past with prisoners, with drug addicts, with Israeli and Palestinian activists, and he's using the technique of the theater of the oppressed by Augusto Boal. Is a technique from the 1960s in Brazil, really trying to implement theater into political and social change. Using the oppressed, you know, Alon says the oppressed are the weak links of society, the prisoners, the poor, the migrants, and using the oppressed stories. And this show comprises of all the personal stories of the migrants who are participating, trying to say something. Many are like you, are skeptic or pessimistic that this would grow into some kind of social change, but at least they're trying, they're hopeful.
They're trying, and I think and if anything, it's giving something for people who are, as we mentioned, the migrants, asylum seeker, or however you want to call people whose faith is undecided, who are displaced and are stuck in that prison, as open as it is. It's giving them something to do. Apropos the theater of the oppressed, is the theater of the oppressed. My life is the theater of the oppressed, right?
Well, they're hoping to take this show across Israel and to show it in other places.
More recognition.
With the current government, we hope that it would be possible.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Ami, but Shahar, you are locked in studio with us because you give us culture and you give us important things, and I give you Ami Kaufman.
Yes,
well, so
important as well. Very important.
Write that down and talk to you about that later on.
With the web review, which is the viral spiral that is the web review. Yes.
We're going to start with some entertainment news.
Please.
One of the most popular shows in the world, Top Gear. I always talk about Top Gear. You know, I have
another man.
I'm sorry. Look, this show reaches about 350 million people around the world.
Didn't he get drunk and punch somebody?
Jeremy Clarkson was fired from the BBC because he hit his producer. And now we have a replacement. This guy's name is Chris Evans. He is a prominent UK radio and TV personality.
I know Chris Evans.
Yeah, no,
that's good because
there's another Chris Evans though. I think.
I'm not sure.
Chris Evans, American actor, but I know this Chris Evans.
You know this guy?
Yeah, I know this Chris Evans.
He's a funny guy. He's a comedian. He loves cars. He has his own collection of cars. So apparently this would be a good thing for Top Gear. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. That was not. Could you do that again a second?
Yeah, yay.
Good.
Sounds convincing. I'm convinced.
You're convinced? Yeah, and I think somebody in my house will be very happy.
Let's move on to some food items. I like noodles, Chinese noodles. Do you like noodles? I also like baths. So why not combine the two? Why not combine the two? Because in Japan, this is what they're doing. They're having ramen baths.
Japanese are
This is a guy called, it's at the Unison Spa House in Hakone, where you can go into a ramen bath full of noodles. This is the new thing in Japan.
Why would you want to
It apparently
do
is
that?
really good for your skin. It's really good for your skin.
Why would you want to
They're
go?
probably looking at that the same way and saying, why would you put that black mud on yourself in the Dead Sea?
Oh, come
so why
on,
not
That's a good point.
swim in noodles?
That's food.
Well,
that is
you know,
food.
if it's good to your skin.
It's good for your skin.
put it
You
on
might
your-
want to do it. I don't know.
And what, like, the noodles are inside
The noodles are
as well?
inside. They do not take out the noodles, according to this. The noodles are in there. That's why why noodles, but they're in there. I don't know.
Well, are they edible? You can actually.
I
like,
didn't
spray
delve
then
that
eat.
deeply into the item.
More research, please. More research.
Sorry, there's bad journalism on my part. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that really pisses me off is this
Please.
item because Corona is so popular that the brewer is actually afraid that it's going to run out. And I am.
Corona's BS beer.
Okay,
There,
thank
I
you
said
very
it.
much.
It's BS
There are many
beer,
Corona haters around the world. I am one of them. I am happy to learn that you are also
Corona
one of them.
is yeah.
But apparently sales are going up about 10% each year. It's just ridiculous, and people are really, Corona haters like me and you are really angry
Because
about this.
Corona is a beer for chicks
Look at
who
the
don't
first
eat.
line. Some news to really baffle Corona haters. That's the first line.
And we're baffled, and we don't get it. It's not beer.
Now, this is a diplomatic earthquake here we have.
Yes.
France's ecology minister, Ségolène Royal, says you must stop eating Nutella because it is ruining the rainforests. It is ruining the rainforests. She says
Not anything. Nutella, specifically Nutella is ruining the how is that?
She said, she said, we have to replant a lot of trees because there's a massive deforestation that also leads to global warming. We should stop eating Nutella, for example, because it's made with palm oil. Now, Nutella is made by a giant called Ferrero. It's a huge, huge company. The Italian foreign minister called up the French and said, "You better apologize for those words, or else we're in trouble."
World War III there.
Or come here, I'll put you in a very small chair and apologize. But it's slightly reminiscent of BDS. Not to make fun of it. Okay. Yes.
Like
okay.
that, yeah.
Apologize.
Yes. Okay. This couple is kind of funny. How do they announce to everybody that they're pregnant? They made a video of impersonations of Britney Spears' different songs. We're going to show the first video.
The first bit of it.
The first bit of it, and it's kind of fun. She's really good. She's really good.
Announcement goes viral. Let's have a look.
I think we did it again. I took the test and is positive. Oh baby, let's just keep it hush hush. Keep the secret at least for 3 months.
Okay, I have to say, I really have to say, I want to adopt our kid because he should not be growing up with these people. No, come on.
I thought she's pretty good.
No, this is phenomenal.
She's good.
But look at how much time
All I can think of is how much time do these people have?
How much? This is beautifully produced. This is like ISIS produced this. Okay, this is essentially. It's got high value production quality. It's got dissolves. It's got effects. Look at that.
I highly recommend it. It's 6 minutes long. They do like another 5 songs,
phenomenal.
and it's perfect. She's perfect.
And zoom ins, and clearly there's some cameras.
Yeah.
That kid should be taken away from these people.
I agree.
Really,
well, no,
really, no. Okay. My
Do we have
God,
time for
phenomenal.
some more? Do we have time for
Yes.
more? Okay, our favorite, TMZ.
TMZ.
Okay, Mila Kunis, who the star, a celebrity from a 70s show. And
a Jew.
She can breathe a sigh of relief because the chicken lawsuit, the famous chicken lawsuit, is going to be dropped. There's a $5,000 chicken lawsuit. A person that she grew up with. Her name is
sorry.
Christina Caro.
Yeah. What is the chicken lawsuit?
She grew up. Christina Caro grew up with Mila
Kunis.
while she was in their Ukraine when they were small. She's from Ukraine.
Right. Yeah, she's from Ukraine.
She accused her when she was a baby that she stole her chicken named Doggy. And she wants to sue her now for $5,000.
The chicken is named Doggy?
The chicken's name was Doggy.
I think that's
She
the
wants to
most
sue
bizarre
Mila
thing in
Kunis
this
for
story.
stealing her chicken Doggy.
You're making this stuff
But now
up.
TMZ has learned.
He is, right?
TMZ has learned that she has dropped the $5,000 lawsuit. Caro says after much discussion, she talked with her therapist. I've learned to forgive in my heart the people who have wronged me, like Mila.
We've got footage of this.
We've got footage of she's trying to be a singer.
Okay.
And Mila says that this is why she's doing it. Let's see her clip.
Let's see her video.
Give me green card. Give me green card.
You can have mine. No, come on. Give me green card.
It's catchy.
It is. I mean, Oh my God!
I've been told actually by the staff
and this
here.
Is the chicken. This is the chicken woman.
This is the chicken woman.
This is the chicken lady.
Yeah. This is why she was trying to sue
Only the
Kunis.
Ukraine people. Only the Ukraine folks. All the time we have for this part of the show. I think we need to leave you off with give me green card.
Definitely.
When we get back, a very interesting technology story I know nothing about, but give me green card. There we go. Wow. Morning, I-24 News Morning Edition on this June. It is June something. Avri.
It is June something.
It is June something. On this June something, I think it's the 18th. And this June 18th, 2015, the place to be, because Avri Rosentzvi is here.
Good morning.
I got it right.
Yeah, you did.
I
oh
did,
my God.
I know, but I'm not going to you. Haha. And as well as CMO of Zuma. Zula. God. You see, you put me in this position. Hillel Fuld is here with us, okay? And Hillel Fuld is the CMO of Zula, okay? He is a tech blogger as well as a startup advisor.
Correct.
There we go. We're also going live on your streaming phone. Nobody can see this right now, but I'm going to wave, irrespective of that. And you're here with all the tech news and anything we need to know coming out of the startup nation that is the country of Israel, which we are sitting right now. Shoot.
A lot of news, as always.
Yes.
So I think one of the interesting stories that have happened over the past couple of weeks, one of them is a company called Mobley, which back in the day raised money from some big celebrities in Hollywood, such as Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire and Carlos Slim, the billionaire. So they just launched a new service called IN. And
IN?
IN.
I is in.
Yes.
IN, okay.
It's actually written wrong here, but it's IN. As
it's
in
okay.
my eyes are everywhere.
My
basically,
IN.
correct.
Okay.
If you think about search, on the web, Google and Bing and other search engines, they haven't really evolved in that we share and produce content by the billions and billions every day on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram and on different social platforms. And Google indexes this stuff, but not in real time. So if I want to know right now, there's a protest going on somewhere, I want to know right now what's going on from people's point of view. They let you do that. You search for a certain topic, a certain
a certain
event.
Topic will go in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Bush.
right now we're searching for Bush, and it's going to show in real time what people are talking about, what Instagram pictures people are showing from events that are happening right now in real time.
God.
So no more indexing; it's just happening right now based on the crowd.
Image search is indexed. It's not real time.
Yeah, no,
okay.
Google's not real time. Absolutely not. It's indexed. It takes time.
So
not long, but it takes time to index.
So IN is just going to bring you everything live from this second about that topic.
Right, but visual. That's the important part
Just
here.
visual.
Visual. Anything, videos and pictures, anything that's happening right now.
Oh my God, they're going to break television.
Wow. You say that every week, right?
I've been waiting for something to do that.
We're still on the air.
Yeah.
We are still on the air.
It's not going to replace, professionals. It's very interesting. It's just an interesting trend to watch,
No, it's a fabulous trend. I think actually it's almost like visual tweeting. Or collecting all the visual tweets. It's a 24/7 visual news or news features
search engine, correct?
Fabulous.
Exactly, it's very interesting.
Fabulous.
And the company raised a lot of money, and an unbelievable team they put together. And
when Mobley are based where?
They're here.
They're here. No, that's what I'm saying.
Tel Aviv. Yeah.
I want to give like a little, a little jitty pride.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it's an amazing team, and the product's very, very interesting, and it's a big, very ambitious. But we'll see what happens.
No, it's incredibly ambitious. It sounds like right up there with the likes of Twitter. I was about to say, and that.
So that's really, really interesting.
That's fun.
Another story that we're seeing right now, as we always talk about, the biggest companies out there are paying more and more attention to Israel and to Startup Nation, and this week it's Amazon. The big Amazon. They opened up another R&D center in Israel.
I don't know if I'm happy about that. They scare me. Amazon plans to expand in Israel?
Yeah, they are expanding, and they opened up another R&D center, and that's really interesting. Herzliya, hundreds of employees, and more on the R&D side and the research and development side.
Did you know that Amazon supposedly treats their employees in a horrific way?
Well, I don't know about that. I have many friends that work at Amazon, and they're very happy, so I don't know about that.
The employees in the vast sort of storerooms that they have. I've heard about really bad things.
Where the drones go in and pick the stuff
No, it's not drones. It's people.
It's people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Amazon's an amazing company.
No, it is an amazing company.
No, we're not.
I'm waiting for a big Amazon drone to come in and.
So they're opening up another R&D center here, and that's just again really interesting. If you look at, I think across the board, maybe the only exception that I can think of in terms of the bigger companies in tech that don't have a strong presence here, I think is Twitter. They do have a Twitter Israel kind of business
true,
unit.
But it's not,
Everybody else is here.
It doesn't have one of those like big bases.
Right. Everybody else is here. Facebook's here, Yahoo's here, Google's here, AOL's here. You know, everybody's here, and Amazon has been here, and now they're expanding. And that's really, really interesting.
That's
and yeah, so you know, just in general, to watch this company, it's a really, really interesting company in so many different ways in terms of, you know, their revenue. They're dominating on the one hand, but, you know, they're not necessarily, by the traditional metric of success, a successful company. They're not making as much money as Apple is, you know, they're not even... So it's just an interesting company to watch.
But still, most of the world, you know, I think it's like a slang phrase. I'll get it on Amazon. It's something that we always say.
I was like 5 years or 6 years into the whole Amazon thing. I was shocked to discover that they were not making money yet.
Yes.
Like when they were huge, they were still losing money.
Right.
It was amazing.
Yeah, they're kind of like
if you look at all the successes of tech, take any success of consumer tech over the last 5 years, no matter who you know, whether it's Waze, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of them, they weren't making money.
They weren't making money.
So it's an interesting philosophical discussion for another time.
And what else?
Anyway, so another company that was, I would say, ridiculed in the press for a long time, a company called Yo, Y-O, is actually it was founded by the founder of Mobley, who we talked about a second ago, Moshe Chogeg, who's a serial entrepreneur. Really,
a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah,
I love that.
He has a lot of ventures. But so Yo was really, I mean, I guess it was justified to be ridiculed back in the day because it was a messaging app in which I would send someone one tap, Yo. That's all they would get. I couldn't write anything. And the point was contextual messaging.
Yo is like, it's a booty call. Yo is a booty call.
Oh, you said that when we talked about it last time, and I was embarrassed then. I'm embarrassed now. But anyway. But
no, it's the way teenagers communicate. Yo.
Right,
that's it. That's the conversation.
2 o'clock in the morning, yo question mark is like awake. Okay, and?
Well, anyway, the point then was contextual messaging. If I'm, you know, picking someone up on a date, I send a yo, she knows I'm outside. That was what they originally launched, and like I said, it was ridiculed. What they did now is they've not pivoted, what's so-called pivoted, which is kind of a buzzword, but they've actually added really unique functionality. They've now created a fully baked push notification service where I can actually subscribe to get real-time notifications when something happens. If it's going to rain outside in an hour, I get a notification. But the latest thing that they launched is photo sharing. So now with one tap, I can tap your name and take a picture and send it to you like that. No more, you know, going into WhatsApp and selecting a person and clicking your photo gallery. Literally one tap and I send you a picture. Same is true for location, same is true for links, and obviously just the messaging aspect. It's just an interesting, you know, one tap, seamless messaging kind of concept that I think is interesting.
I think, you know, in the world of high tech or whatnot, and I really am not the person to, you know, discuss it in depth, the first one to admit it, but that's what everybody's aiming for.
We're all lazy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're aiming for.
We're all ADHD and we're all lazy.
Exactly. If you can...
My Facebook just updated itself a few days ago, and now when I go into Facebook, it says, I see that you just taken a picture. Do you want to share that? It's already in there.
It's already in there.
And they want me to share it.
Terrifying. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's terrifying.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know. Does the picture come with Yo Mama? That's what I want. I'm kidding. Okay.
Yo Ma.
Yo Ma. Yo Ma is the new startup. But it's fascinating. It's interesting. It's another step towards that.
Right.
Hillel, you're locked in studio as always.
I'm here.
You are there, and you know, so are your viewers.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a little cell phone there that you're not seeing that basically is shooting us as well. And we are now here with Avri, the cultural master editor of the Culture magazine.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I know. With anything and everything you need to know about what you need to see and where you need to go.
Well, we're starting actually. We're continuing with the technology trend. We're talking about E3, which happened this week.
Okay.
The Electronic Entertainment Expo, the biggest event in the world.
Everybody has an expo these days. Yes.
These days, it's been going on for years.
Okay.
E3 is like the main event of the year for the world of computer gaming, of video gaming. Consoles, video games, all the big companies are there. Sony, Electronic Arts.
And look at that. No, I'm looking at how they launch things. My God.
Yeah, they launch things in like
the gap between gaming and real life is very much, you know, it's decreasing, shrinking in a major way. Gaming is becoming more and more real. Virtual reality and Oculus Rift and everything.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about virtual reality in a second, but I'd like to start with a game that made a lot of splash at this year's E3. That's Star Wars Battlefronts. They're taking a very successful sort of franchise of war games and translating it to the Star Wars universe. You can play as good guys or bad guys.
No, I just had a vision of like ISIS on the Death Planet. Okay. And
you can play as good guys or bad guys. Like vast battlegrounds on different planets we know from the Star Wars universe. Let's watch a little bit of the trailer.
is exposed. Take it out.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just realized there's like a young Luke Skywalker there.
Yeah,
and
you can, no, you play as like a normal soldier, but then you can get power-ups which turn you, like, you can call in heroes for a time.
You. Okay.
But we have to move on.
Yes, move on.
To a new virtual reality headset called the Microsoft HoloLens.
Amazing.
It's amazing because differently from the Oculus Rift and other sort of headsets that we've seen until now, it shows you sort of a clear version. You see the world.
Yes.
And projected onto it is sort of a virtual sync. So what we're seeing right now, it's like a camera wearing the headset.
Okay.
You're seeing the real time what they're seeing.
What they're seeing.
With virtual displays on that.
Augmented reality.
So yeah, that's a working augmented reality device. Here we're seeing they're playing playing Minecraft, you know, in real world. It's as if we would see Minecraft right here rising from this table.
This is what he's seeing in his glasses.
That's what he's seeing. He's seeing like augmented reality of this game on a tabletop in the real world.
And how are we seeing it with him?
Because the camera also has
Gotcha.
An augmented reality set.
Just to tell you how real this stuff is, if I may, a friend of mine works at Facebook who owns Oculus Rift, and they showed her a presentation of a dinosaur climbing near her, and she was terrified. She knew what to expect.
Yeah.
She was terrified. Screeching. It's so real, you can't even imagine.
Moving on to another game.
I'm old. Okay, yes, another game.
Moving on to another game called No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is a game that's has been in development for a few years now. And it's a game developed by a very small team of people.
Right.
That's not
it.
No Man's Sky. This is No Man's Sky.
This is No Man's Sky. Okay.
It's a procedurally created universe, which means nobody actually designed any specific planet. They just created coding that when sort of activated, procedurally creates a whole universe.
A whole universe.
So no designer knows this is what this planet will look like. They created code that randomizes planets and randomizes battlefields. And the idea is that you're going to travel between planets and discover a new digital planet that nobody's ever stepped on. Okay,
Where no man has ever. Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be millions of procedurally created planets. There is gonna be gameplay elements. There are gonna be spaceships. They're gonna be shooting people.
You know what this leads me to think, and I'm sorry, we're sitting in the discussion. We're gonna stop this for a second. That basically means, but because this is code, right? It's code. Does everybody now need to understand what code is?
It's an interesting question. It was someone was talking about this yesterday. You can absolutely build a company without necessarily you knowing code. You can you have to hire someone. Someone has to write code.
I was about to say, but the new generation, does everybody will all have to know code?
You have coders, and you have the people who tell the coders what to do,
and marketers and other things. Like, yeah, but coding has become much more mainstream.
Coding is like, you almost cannot survive in this world if you don't know code. Yeah. Hey, that's just me.
The amazing thing is that this is an independent game. A group of like 20 people created this game. A group of 20 people created a universe. And it's been announced a few years ago. Now we've seen a gameplay trailer, which is basically you see someone playing the game, which is not like showing you like a CGI'd sort of manipulated version. So this is real. They haven't announced a launch date yet, but I'm pretty intrigued. I'm really waiting to see this game.
If you are intrigued, the world should take notice. Moving along real quick.
I think we'll go to Pixar's new movie.
Yes.
We'll movie 3.
Pixar released. I understand. Yes.
Pixar released a new movie, Inside Out, which takes place inside the head of an 11-year-old girl.
Amen. I want to see a trailer. There's a trailer, right?
Yeah, we have a trailer.
Okay, let's take a look. Real quick.
It's Broadway. Congratulations, San Francisco. You've ruined pizza.
Who's the birthday girl?
Brain freeze!
Okay, so these are all the things that
These are the characters. You see the real world, and then what happens inside this girl's head.
Subconscious.
The reviews are gushing, and I have to say, it's a wonderful movie. I saw it last week.
What's so genius about it, and I'm speaking, I hate saying this phrase because it only happened as of late that I became a mother. It's a great film also for parents. Because I mean, the premise of this is all you want to know is what in God's name goes on in your kid's head.
Yeah, but you can remember what happened in your kid's head. But they have, it's really smart heartfelt.
You saw it?
I did saw it, and
I
did see it.
Ah, okay.
It's smart, heartfelt, but it's also like it's an ingenious way of telling a story. Right. They took this concept to the nth degree, and it's really very good.
Wow,
you know,
and then
it
coming
has some.
From you, the sarcastic Avi that we know.
I have a soft spot.
Yeah, you have a soft caramel core, and it's melting. And definitely.
So yeah, I recommend this to everyone, parents, kids, everyone.
Whatnot.
Sold.
You let us sold. That was all the time that we had for today. It is Thursday, which means it's the end of the week, but do tune in tomorrow morning for a last show of the week, I-24 News Morning Edition, the place you should be. And, of course, stay with I-24 News for all the news of the day.